All right, good day. My name is Mike Flores, and I am fortunate to serve as the Chancellor of the Alamo College's district. I want to thank you for joining us for a seat at the table, another episode of A Seat at the Table. And these are live streamed episodes and cover a variety of topics that align with the mission of the Alamo College's district, our family of colleges and centers, and most importantly, our students. And today, in fact, our topic is student leadership, the impact of student leadership. We're going to have an opportunity to talk with a former student as part of A Seat at the Table, and then we'll have an opportunity in Take Two with TPR, which follows, immediately follows this episode, to talk with a current student involved in student leadership. And I just want to welcome everybody to the academic year, to the start of the fall 21 semester in this academic year, and particularly because after 18 long months, a majority of our students, faculty, and staff are back on campus at the colleges and at the centers, and in partnership with other providers throughout Bear and the surrounding service area. And I think that in and of itself is worthy of recognition. So just want to welcome everyone back, and utilizing, of course, smart public health protocols and being mindful of everything that we can do to keep each other safe and ensure that we continue our focus on student success. So I'm fortunate to be joined by Dr. Jean Sprague, who serves as the chair of the Board of Trustees. Welcome, Dr. Sprague.
Glad to be here as usual.
And I think we've got a rhythm going. Dr. Sprague and I have talked about that, and we also have a great opportunity to connect with our special guests. And so our special guest actually today is Kytheranialynn Montez, and so also known as Kat. And so I want to thank you for being here with us. And remember, during your time, you're an alumnus of Palo Alto College, and so heavily involved in student government, and then transferred to university. And so you're back here with us, and actually we're going to talk about the role of student leadership. And we're fortunate that you're going to spend a little bit of time also talking about what you're doing with Move Texas, and so seeking to engage others and empower folks within the community. I'm going to kick it off because this is important. Student leadership in particular has been a focal point of interest with the Board of Trustees. And so, Dr. Sprague, could you talk to us and in particular about the role that student leadership has played and with Alamo College's district and the board?
Yeah, the board, as you mentioned, student success has been our primary objective for at least the last 12 years. We've made student success a policy matter and a fiscal matter. But one of our proudest initiatives was when we decided to include a student as a student trustee on the board. The student trustee is not a voting member because the law kind of prevents that, but the student contributes extremely valuable information to the board about what is actually happening with our student population, what their needs are, how they're perceiving the student success policies. And also, the student trustee has been instrumental in initiating a lot of modifications to our trustees, a lot of new initiatives that have helped with student success and have been vital to the way the board functions. We were the first community college system in the state of Texas to have a student trustee, and now it's a model. Part of what we do afford our student trustees is to be involved in national meetings. The ACCT, our national meeting of trustees across the nation. Our students have been there since we started the trustee, and also have become leaders in that movement across the nation. We Alamo is looked to, and our students are looked to when we go to national meetings. They're looked to for leadership and how to do the same thing in their communities. So it provides a value opportunity for our students to develop leadership skills, but it provides a great opportunity for Alamo colleges to be leaders across the nation. So there are many other leadership opportunities. Kat is going to tell us about some of those coming up. But all this has generated from something that was initiated many, many years, which is called a leader in every seat. So the idea is we don't have some leaders here, we want to generate some leaders here. We want to generate a leader in every seat. When they leave here, they'll become a leader in their community. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sprague. I think you can see both the vision and the mission for the Board of Trustees that goes throughout the organization. And in fact, at an individual level, the goal is self-efficacy and empowerment with a leader in every seat. We're fortunate that we get to talk with a leader this morning in Kytheranialynn Montez. Can tell us a little bit about how you became interested in student leadership, in particular during your time at Palo Alto College.
Thank you so much for having me. I came to the Alamo colleges in 2014 and I started at Palo Alto College. During my orientation there, I actually met Kirsten Anderson from the Student Leadership Institute program, and she encouraged me to apply. It was really great to have a smiling face that first day on campus, feeling very welcomed. And so I did apply to the program. I was accepted, and over the course of the 3 years that I was at Palo Alto College and the Alamo colleges, I participated in SLI. I finished Tier 1, Tier 2, and also a project leader program as well. It was very beneficial to me in helping me grow as a leader, as a person. We studied the 7 habits of highly effective people during that time in the program as well. And that impacted me positively, personally and professionally. I use that to this day in my home life, and I also use it at work as well as I work at Move Texas. I also participated in around 10 organizations, but also I was involved in student government specifically. I was secretary and then also president for 2 years in the student government. That expanded as well to student district council, where I got to know the board, the chancellor at the time as well, really getting to know people across the Alamo colleges as well. I really enjoyed that time and being able to advocate for students, being able to get to know you at that time as the president, Dr. Flores as well, talking with you and working with you to make campus life better for students. That was a significant part of my journey through the Alamo colleges.
Well, I think that's wonderful to hear. I think one of the things that's with students, in particular student leaders, are just being able to articulate the voice and the interests of students, being able to provide perspective, as Dr. Sprague mentioned, in particular during board meetings. We just had a board meeting last night, and so it's oftentimes the student trustee will offer a point of view relative to specific agenda items on their own. Many of the trustees, Dr. Sprague himself and others, will actually ask the student trustee for their input and vantage point. And so you had mentioned your role both at Palo Alto College and student leadership, being involved in the Student Leadership Institute as part of Alamo colleges, as well as the Student District Council. Tell us about how those lessons and that experience that you had with the Alamo colleges has then carried over into your current role, and some of the things that you've learned, how you've applied those.
Yes. Participating in various student organizations and becoming a student leader on campus definitely affected my student success going throughout 4 degrees. I actually finished 2 associate's degrees while I was here, a bachelor's from A&M and a master's from UIW. And being involved on campus, having a support network that all heavily impacted me being able to be successful in finishing my degrees. Also having a network, being able to support me in that way as I finished my degrees and I looked for work. Finishing my degree at UIW really carried over for that leadership. It's an organizational development and leadership degree, and you can see that in that the leadership just carried over and it stayed with me, and it's helped me at work in being a human resources operations associate. Specifically as well, going back to the 7 habits, I apply those at work all the time, and just being proactive with preparing my work, preparing for meetings. I gained a lot of skills as the Student Government Association president in facilitating meetings, preparing for them, hosting events. All of that's carried over as I work in the operations department, as well in seeking first to understand, then to be understood, another habit. I learned that on campus, seeking to see what students wanted, what would make their impact on campus and help them stay involved and engage and finish their degree one day. Even at work, listening to employees and seeing what will help them have a work-life balance. How can we make things better for them? Because ultimately that ties back to organizational success. If we maximize employee potential, we can also maximize the organizational success.
Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations. 2 associate degrees from Palo Alto College, then your bachelor's degree from Texas A&M University in College Station, and then your master's here right down the street from us, but at UIW. I think that is spectacular. You mentioned your role, and it's at Move Texas. Some of our folks may not know what Move Texas is. Can you explain what Move
Yes.
Texas does?
Move Texas is a nonprofit organization. We focus on civic education, voting rights, as well as issue advocacy. And one of the biggest things that I wanted to do when I graduated from college with my degrees is have a positive impact on the community. And our organization is definitely doing that by giving young Texans a voice and helping them get engaged in voting and having their voices heard. So it's been a really great time working at Move Texas. I've actually been able to connect with a previous student that I worked with in Student District Council, as she's actually my boss now as well. So it's been wonderful being involved at Move Texas. And little did I know, when I was Student Government Association president, I actually helped with National Voter Registration Day, and that was connected to Move Texas. So going all the way back to my campus life and student involvement was very important.
That's great. Well, thank you, Kat, and congratulations on everything that you've done. I know, Dr. Sprague, when we had opened, you had mentioned the role that student leadership plays and how important that is to the board. And I know through almost 3 decades of service of your dedication to the Board of Trustees, how does that make you feel? I mean, just the interaction with student leaders, but students throughout the Alamo colleges.
Well, it makes me feel great, but it's being more in touch with the students. I have a better feel for how the students are reacting to the educational initiatives, for example, and the online things that we do, and the leadership opportunities we provide. Are those heading in the right direction? And one in particular that you mentioned were the 7 habits. The board really, we didn't think so at the time, but it turned out we were really going out on a limb advocating that all students be afforded that opportunity. And sometimes that turned out to be, some people thought that wasn't really necessary to be done. You're a shining example of that, and it's the feedback that we got through our student trustee, and actually advocacy we got from that particular student trustee, that helped get that initiative put into our policy. So it's been terrific.
That's wonderful. I think being able to have that sense of engagement, and I think that both Dr. Sprague and all of the trustees actually value that opportunity for engagement and interaction at all 5 of the colleges and the regional centers. And we see Kat and her involvement in everything that she's done. One of the things in looking at the habits, right, that I think is critical is kind of beginning with the end in mind, right? So what does it mean as we look at what is our goal, what are we trying to achieve, and then articulating that and then working our way back. I think you had mentioned seeking first to understand and then be understood. Oftentimes folks are thinking about what they want to say before they're even hearing what the other person they're having a conversation with is actually articulating. So all of those I think are so very important. And you mentioned the interplay of what that means in work life, and also you mentioned home. And being able to apply all of those lessons. And I think they're critical, and they provide, as Dr. Sprague said, a way forward that's beneficial for many of us within Alamo and definitely in the community. We have an opportunity for individuals that are watching to be able to pose questions through social media. So we have one, and it's directly to you, Kat. Was student leadership important to your success?
Definitely. Student leadership was most definitely important to my success, and it kept me engaged. It gave me something to look forward to. It gave me peers, like-minded people that had this common interest that we could all work together and support each other. So definitely student leadership and success all contributed to where I am today. Being able to successfully complete a master's degree, let alone an associate, was so important. And all the support that I got from my mentors on campus was very significant for that as well.
Thank you. I think that's critically important. And, you know, we discussed a few things that you were involved in, but I think the other part is you were involved in many student organizations, not only elected positions, but many organizations. You transferred to Texas A&M University at College Station, which means that you had a pretty high GPA as well. And so what was something that you did in order to balance all of those? Was there a particular lesson in life? Was there something that you applied from 7 Habits, or what worked for you? What was kind of that secret sauce that you applied during your undergraduate years, perhaps, that you could offer to the audience?
I would say you touched on it, begin with the end in mind. Often as we go through personal challenges, keeping our grades up on campus, balancing between being a student leader and our classes, we have to keep our eye on the prize. We have to begin with the end in mind and realize that all the challenges, all the struggles that we may go through ultimately are for us to get to that point. It's going to be worth it in the end. So definitely, I would say beginning with the end in mind, continuing to be proactive, leaning on my mentors were significant parts of me being able to just be successful and get to this point. I would not have been able to get here without you, Dr. Flores, Rodell, and several other leaders on campus.
Thank you. That's very nice. Thank you very much. I do appreciate it. I know you were able to connect with lots of students, faculty, and staff, Palo Alto and throughout Alamo colleges, as you mentioned, Dr. Asher. Another question for you. What advice do you have for current students? And this will be our last question for a seat at the table. A lot of interest, Kat, in your involvement and also your journey. So what advice would you have for current students?
I would say don't be afraid to ask questions. Ask questions of your professors. I always did that in wanting to know, how did you get here? How did you get to this point? How did you become a doctor, a professor? And that helped me understand that everybody's journey is different. Everybody goes through various struggles, but you can make it. And I feel like I'm a testament to that you're at this point right now, but you can go as far as you want. And just continue, just be proactive and do the best you can.
Well, thank you for being with us today, Kytheranialynn Montez, and congratulations on all your success. And you have to keep us posted and updated on everything with Move Texas and as you move your journey forward. I just want to thank you. I think that as an individual and as a leader during our time at Palo Alto, you were able to really keep your eye on the prize, represent the interests of students, ensure that you were gathering divergent viewpoints, and being able to ensure that students had a voice and articulate that both to the administration and to others. So congratulations on everything.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
All right, well, thank you. And then Dr. Sprague, thank you for being with us. Final word.
Final word is I'm simply inspired by Kat's story, but fortunately, it's one of many that we hear, and I'm just glad that we have this opportunity for students and people who aren't students that might be watching this to see the opportunities and where you can go with a start at Alamo colleges. So congratulations to you, Kat.
Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Sprague. And so thank you for joining us today for another episode of A Seat at the Table. And I want to thank Kat Montez for joining us this morning as well. We're very proud of all of our students. I think Dr. Sprague had underlined that, right? Every single effort and what our students do. And if you want to, because we discussed the Student Leadership Institute, if you would like more information on SLI, then you can go to alamo.edu/student-leadership to be able to do that. We look forward to more live streamed episodes of A Seat at the Table. And I want to encourage you to stay tuned because we're going to have Camille Phillips join us with Danielle Barrera, a current student at Northwest Vista College, for Take Two with TPR.
Good morning and welcome to Take Two with TPR in partnership with the Alamo Colleges District. I'm Camille Phillips, the education reporter at Texas Public Radio. Take Two with TPR is a second act, if you will, following A Seat at the Table episodes. Each episode I come on and join Dr. Flores and usually a student to talk about the issue of the day. Today we're talking about student leadership, and I'm here with Chancellor Mike Flores and Northwest Vista student Danielle Barrera. So we'll just get right into it. We're talking about student leadership. And Danielle, you are the president of the Student Government Association at Northwest Vista. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. Ma'am.
Okay. And you're also the chair of the Student District Council.
That is correct,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Ma'am.
So Northwest Vista's role is you're focused on what's happening at your campus, right? And then
Correct.
you also go and talk together about what you do as a whole community college system. Is that right? Can you just talk
Yes.
about those two roles and how they work?
So with government association, as you mentioned, it is definitely more of a focus on our campus. What issues are we coming up with? and how can we, make sure that our students know who we are and what we're here for. That's part of what we want to get done this semester is making sure that they know that they have a voice and that we're here to express that voice. And then that kind of comes together at SDC, because then we get the other 4 colleges together and we discuss everything, and we find a general consensus of what are we running into, how can we communicate with our students, and just make sure that whatever needs that they're having are being met. Yeah.
And so why did you want to get involved with student government?
So my long-term plans are to become an attorney, and part of that plan is also to become I want to be a civil servant. I eventually, want to go for positions like senator or councilwoman. Those are big shoes to fill. And I think that in order for me to get to that, Student Government Association was the way to begin that process of learning how the ins and outs of how certain associations work, how groups work, how to network with different people. So that was really what initiated the want to be part of Student Government Association.
Okay. How do you, I guess, first of all, I wanted to ask what type of things do you discuss during district meetings?
District meetings, so we've only had one so far. But essentially what we're doing right now is we're setting goals. We are, getting with each individual SGA and trying to figure out what they feel is needed to be done on a district level. And then the other part of that is also building a relationship with our trustee, right? With our student trustee. That way our message is getting where it needs to, it's in the spaces that it needs to be in, so that's, right now we're in the goal setting part of our meetings.
Okay. Are you new on the Student District Council this year?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, so I was a member last semester, and then I got elected into chair. So this is my first semester being chair. Yes.
Okay. So maybe you can answer then, like, what would you say last year was the biggest issue you all discussed or brought to the table, talking maybe to the district leadership?
Mental health was really, really big. With the pandemic, it's put a lot of people in different situations. Everybody, I think, has experienced some kind of loss. And so that was definitely a huge issue that we wanted to address, and just, it's a big, and it requires a lot of different pieces. And so, we reached out and we got the foundation of what that looks like to get things moving. But it was towards the end of the semester, so it was really hard to really get things out and about. But that was one of our main focuses, and I my goal is to incorporate that into moving forward, because I feel like it's still an important issue that I think anybody in the human race experiences at some point or another. So.
That makes sense. Dr. Flores, from your perspective, do you remember, the student associations or student leadership coming to you with mental health? How did that all happen?
I think, one of the important things that Danielle mentioned in our former student government or student leadership, Kat Montez in a seat at the table, is just really their level of involvement and just being able to give voice to important issues. So I remember the virtual conversation that was held on student mental health. I think you had about 10 student leaders on there with our former student trustee really discussing the importance, what they've observed, lived experience, plus talking with colleagues, right, peers within the colleges, and then just how critical it is to them. I think the other part is not only, as Danielle mentioned, are they leaders within a particular college, but they're actually then they also come together for collective voice and impact as leaders within the district. So it may be challenging to navigate one world, but then you're actually talking about a universe, right? And being able to do that. And I am just affirmed by, our student leaders because of how seamless they make that appear and how they have really, I think, no fear in just discussing those issues because those are critical issues to them. And they give student voice in conversations with faculty, with staff, with administration, with the trustees, right? And providing a candid perspective of what that means and the impact that it's having, how critical it is for us to begin to look at issues such as student mental health or providing more wraparound supports and other things. So I think, Danielle as STC chair has done a fantastic job in what she has done. And I just think it speaks to her leadership. And I just think it speaks to how we all seek to work together.
Would you say Alamo Colleges has changed for the better since you've given more space for student voice? Like how has the district changed?
Well, I was thinking that, in STC, right, it's the Student District Council, and then Danielle or the STC chair and vice chair participate in what we call the district leadership team. So we have student, faculty, staff leadership with administrators, and we meet once a month. So I think that actually it's a team effort. It really is being able to talk, have conversations, and sometimes those are all critical conversations, but sometimes those are not easy conversations, right? But I think that it's important for us to figure out what does a path forward look like. How do we ensure that we support our students? And so I just want to thank Danielle and her colleagues for bringing student voice to the forefront.
Makes sense. And Danielle, do you feel like you're heard? I mean, you can sit in a council meeting and discuss things, but do you feel like you truly have a seat at the table as this
Absolutely.
table,
Absolutely. It goes into so many spaces as far as like in my classes, I feel like I have a voice, with other leadership, with other administrative people that I've come across. I've always felt heard, and I feel overwhelmingly just honored to be in the spaces that I'm allowed to be in. And I don't think that I've ever been given any type of impression that what I had to say wasn't important, and so yeah.
What advice would you give to a student on campus that's maybe thinking they want to take a leadership role?
Do it. Absolutely. It's so worth it. I worked about 20 years in customer service. And being in those positions, it's very, very hard to work your way up. It's not impossible, but having the background of leadership and being able to show that on paper makes a huge difference in working for corporations. So absolutely. If it's something that you're called to do, I would say absolutely do it. You know, there may be, you know, hurdles that you have to jump over, but once you get over those hurdles, the experiences are amazing. The opportunities are amazing. And yeah, I would definitely encourage somebody who is interested to get involved. Absolutely.
Great. So it's a benefit to you as career development and just as a student, but also you feel like you have an impact on your campus and your college system.
It really has helped me in not just academic. I know it's going to help me in my professional career later, but it's also helped me as a parent. You know, there are certain aspects, you know, the 7 habits of highly effective people, that has helped me as well, you know, in applying that to being a parent. It's there. I feel like everything just kind of comes together and is incorporated in such a way that it really truly does leave an impression on every aspect of your life.
Sounds good. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Well, Dr. Flores, I want to give you a last thought before we wrap up today. Danielle was talking about how it makes her a better student and also impacts the college system as well. What is that something you've seen as well, that it's interconnects with academics and just builds up your students?
Sure. I think what Danielle has mentioned, we had an earlier conversation with Kat Montez, and just on a daily basis interacting with today's Alamo College student is pretty much Danielle is our student, right? So what she's doing, her success, and then having to balance competing demands, right? So going to school, raising a family, right? Her raising her daughter, working part-time to full-time. I think all of those are the demands that our students are meeting, and not only meeting, but as you can see with Danielle, exceeding, right? And being able to stay focused on what am I going to do while I'm at Northwest Vista, and then where do I want to go? And then what impact am I going to make in life, in the community, with my family, with my daughter, and with others. And I think that's critical. And so, so just so proud.
For taking the time to talk to us today out of a busy schedule.
I really appreciate being here.
Definitely. Well, you've been listening to Take Two with TPR. I'm Camille Phillips, TPR's education reporter, here with Chancellor Mike Flores and Northwest Vista College Student and Student Government Association President Danielle Barrera. Thank you so much for listening.